I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, could a $10 a day childcare deal finally be on the way to Ontario? It may be less than 24 hours away. Everything you need to know straight ahead. And
I'll believe it when I see it.
Breaking ground on the $28 billion GTA transit project, how critics are reacting. Plus,
this is Canada. We are a soccer nation now, and we're ready for Qatar.
Tonight's shutout victory that's taking Team Canada to the World Cup.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Thanks for joining us. Big news for parents and caregivers tonight. By this time tomorrow, the ink should be dry on a $10 a day childcare deal for Ontario. The province has been the last one standing to get it done with the federal government. Travis Danraj with what we know so far.
Well, Shannon, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and this is going to be major news for Ontario families that have been waiting months to see this deal inked. Here are the basics: $10.2 billion over 5 years and the creation of 86,000 childcare spaces by 2026. It means a reduction in fees almost immediately, around 25% to start, then another 25% by 2026. Now, sources with Queen's Park say the province has negotiated extra flexibility into this agreement to ensure more say over how the money is spent. We're also told Ontario has secured an extra envelope of cash to get the province to that $10 a day target, but details on how much and how it will be used are not clear at this point. Now, of course, this all comes as Premier Ford faces a test of his leadership come June. A much better deal than other provinces could neutralize what could have been a potential hot-button issue during the election campaign. However, if this deal is basically the same, well, you can bet that will be fodder for the opposition parties on the road to June 2nd. Shannon?
Thanks, Travis. He's reporting for us from Ottawa. Childcare costs in Ontario are by far among the highest in the country. A full-time spot for a toddler in Toronto is about $70 a day. For more reaction on this developing story, we're going to bring in Amanda Monday now. She's a mom of two and the owner of The Workaround, a combined daycare and co-working space. She joins us from Toronto. Thanks so much for being here with us late on a Sunday night.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just start. You hear the news. What's your reaction?
You know, my initial reaction is finally, we are Canada's largest province and still most populous province and the last to sign this childcare deal. So, you know, my initial reaction is finally Ontarians have been waiting for this for so long. And then my next immediate reaction is, how's this going to work? What are the details and what does rollout look like for families and for daycare owners like myself?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are still a lot of questions people have. And I know your kids are just past daycare age, right? They're 5 and 7. So maybe it doesn't directly impact you as a parent, but tell us about it, being a daycare operator and what you're thinking about.
You know, I started The Workaround because childcare in Ontario is so expensive. And in particular in Toronto, where we have wait lists for infant and toddler care of up to 2 years. I was still on a wait list for my son when he was 3 years old. So even though I opened a daycare to solve my own problem, I know that this will help many, many families in Toronto who need affordable care. And it's been announced that the province is hoping to create 86,000 new childcare spaces. We also know there are over 700 children in Ontario under the age of 4. So it won't help all families right away. It will make a dent, and that's important. As a daycare owner, you know, I have a lot of questions. I run a for-profit private childcare center, and the funding has been announced that it'll primarily go to nonprofit childcare centers, which means I probably won't be able to access the funding. And a lot of other childcare centers that are set up like mine also might not be able to access the funding, which means there's still a lot of questions.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we're going to learn more in the coming days. But, you know, what would you like to see from the province as we learn more?
The number one thing I want to see from the province is a priority to get families to work and to make sure that there's equitable and affordable access for all families who need childcare. Right now, it is one of the hardest things. It's what's keeping women out of the workforce. It's what's keeping my friends, my family from being able to return to work full time because there aren't enough affordable childcare spaces in Toronto, in Ontario. And so we have to make this rollout quick, efficient, and also equitable across the province.
For sure. It is by far one of the biggest stressors, I think, for a lot of people. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. That's Amanda Monday. She's joining us in Toronto. Ground is officially broken on the Ontario line. The hope is that the 16-kilometer subway route will ease congestion, but the massive project will bring years of closures and construction. As Talia Ricci showed us, officials say they've learned valuable lessons from other recent projects and will do better this time.
The tractors may be still now, but Premier Doug Ford says construction on the Ontario line is already underway.
It will expand the current subway system in Toronto by a full 50%. When complete, the 16-kilometer Ontario line will travel from here at Ontario Place all the way to the Ontario Science Centre.
Ford, alongside Toronto's mayor and Canada's transport minister, said the new 15-station subway line will reduce congestion on the roads and on transit.
And it's going to help people from across the region. It's going to help them to get to work, to get to school, to get to see their families, to avoid traffic congestion. It's going to help the environment.
We're here to celebrate this historic milestones for Toronto's public transit system.
Ford said the line is projected to generate up to $11 billion in economic benefits for the city. But with significant construction and multi-year closures on major routes like Queen Street, the hope is businesses are able to survive the journey.
Queen and Yonge, for example, those businesses, the transit will still be operating. They will still be able to get there, and most people will get there by subway as opposed to by car, for example. But it is a subject of acute concern for me and for the City Council, and I know for the province and Metrolinx, and we will make sure we do better than we did on Eglinton.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Transit advocate and blogger Steve Monroe has other intersections on his mind.
Just King and Bathurst, Green and Spadina, just to give two examples. Once Metrolinx is out of there, Infrastructure Ontario moves in to build major redevelopments. So there is going to be development, construction of some kind at many of these station sites well into the 2030s, even after the line opens.
The province had previously said the new line would be operational by 2030, but today Metrolinx said they aren't able to confirm a new projection date. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Yes, a moment 36 years in the making. Canada punching its ticket to the 2022 World Cup. The boys in red defeated Jamaica 4-0 on a chilly afternoon at BMO Field. Our Greg Ross was there.
Jonathan David gets there. Back across. Buchanan!
By soccer standards, this was a blowout.
Hoyland was wide open.
Canada scored 4 goals en route to a 4-0 victory over Jamaica. And when the whistle blew to end the match, it kicked off a massive celebration inside the stadium.
From obscurity to unforgettable, this is the moment the country has waited for.
And that celebration continued as fans spilled out of the stadium. With this win, Canada has clinched its first World Cup berth since 1986, which was before many of these fans were born.
It's an amazing feeling. First time in our life we got to see these guys go to the World Cup.
It's a special moment for Canada, it really is.
It's definitely a moment in history for all Canadians.
A moment the players were happy to give these fans.
We feel so proud of ourselves right now to be able to give back to the country that has given us the best life possible.
You would think that it would be impossible for a Canadian to be in the World Cup, but I mean, we made history. We sacrificed a lot to get here. And I mean, it's a dream come true for us.
And they did it on home soil. In fact, most of the Canadian players were raised in the GTA, so this was their own backyard.
My family is here. All my family is here watching me. realize my dream with my brothers here, with my teammates. It's incredible, honestly. Something I could never even imagine to be this good.
Many fans here believe that this is just the beginning, and there is still much more to come for this team and this country in the sport of soccer.
For soccer, it's going to change the culture of the game here forever. We're never going back.
Frankly, I don't think anybody is scared of Qatar. We're not scared to play the big dogs in Europe anymore. This is Canada. We are a soccer nation now.
In case the world doesn't know, our best player wasn't even here. You better get ready. We're coming for you, Qatar.
And soon we will know which countries Canada will face at the World Cup. The draw will be held on Friday to determine first-round matchups. Greg Ross, CBC News.
Good news now, where signs of a spring wave are becoming more evident. Without widespread testing, there are still questions about what that could look like. And as Farah Morelli explains, experts are keeping a close eye on hospitalizations.
It's been nearly a week since mask mandates were lifted in Ontario, but most clients at this salon are keeping them on.
Have a good day. They come in and they already have the mask on. They choose to keep it on, and that's okay with us.
As public health measures loosen, wastewater monitoring data suggests cases are rising in many places.
Certainly, if mandates are lifted, you expect to see more transmission.
Experts say the more transmissible variant of Omicron could also be to blame.
We expected to see an increase in the number of COVID cases simply because BA2 is here.
For some kids returning to school after spring break in BC, it's creating anxiety. Masks won't be required in class.
I feel that it's a bit too early.
Many experts say the question is no longer, are we headed for a spring wave, but rather, how severe is it going to be? Without widespread testing, one of the key metrics they'll be looking at is hospitalizations. Data shows on average the number of COVID patients in hospital in Canada declined last week. But on a provincial level, there's been a recent uptick in places like BC, Ontario, and Newfoundland.
We do have significant community level protection, but it's still unknown to what extent that's going to help us and to what extent subsequent waves are going to impact us.
In Quebec, hospitalizations are climbing outside of Montreal. But that's not the only concern.
A lot of healthcare workers have been exposed to the virus recently.
Back at the salon, the owners say they're continuing to encourage staff to keep masking.
For the most part, we're all wearing our masks, but I think it makes people a little bit more at ease.
At ease during a time when much uncertainty lies ahead. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Starting tomorrow, Canada's journey to reconciliation is taking a major step. Indigenous leaders and residential school survivors will meet with Pope Francis at the Vatican. Juanita Taylor has our story.
As they waited to board an 8-hour flight to Rome, these delegates, who have been meeting for months to plan their message, enjoyed a happy reunion, a good start to a trip of a lifetime.
Very excited, very humble. So very grateful. Brought memories back from my childhood and the way I was taught, and that what helped me survive the residential school.
She spent 10 years at residential school after her mother died of tuberculosis.
Although they tried to change us to say that our family was no good, they were savages, they didn't know nothing. My mom and dad taught us kindness, to love, respect. And, you know, that was, that helped me survive.
The discussions here in Rome will be incredibly difficult. Memories of residential school experiences will be shared, including how that has broken families. And since the discovery of what are believed to be unmarked graves at former residential school sites, the call has grown louder for an apology to be delivered in Canada. Meetings with the Pope this week are being called historic.
I think it'll change our country. I think that's how important it really is. And I think it'll change our country in different ways. I think reconciliation will take over.
This Archbishop says the Pope wants to listen to what they have to say.
And my hope is that this is going to be for them a moment that's going to help in that journey of healing that they're on, yes, but so's the church.
Delegates from the Métis National Council and a small contingent of Inuit are meeting separately with Pope Francis on Monday. Later in the week, the Assembly of First Nations. Then on Friday, Pope Francis will meet with all three groups. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Rome.
A national residential school crisis line has been set up to provide support for former students and those affected. People can access emotional and crisis referral services by calling the 24-hour National Crisis Line at 1-866-925-4419.
It's very concerning and troubling what's happening in Ukraine, and we are very pleased to see the Canadian support.
Canadian officials and community members continue to show support for Ukraine, a fundraiser organized by the Canada-Ukraine Foundation taking place at Casa Loma earlier today. Organizers saying it was a big success with 1,500 people in attendance, all part of the Stand with Ukraine effort. Well, from one humanitarian crisis to another.
When it comes to Yemeni people and their suffering, we really don't see that type of solidarity and support, which is very shameful and embarrassing and inhuman for us Canadians to see that you're not dealing equally with human rights around the world.
Dozens rallying outside the office of Chrystia Freeland, marking the 7th anniversary of the civil war in Yemen. A Saudi-led coalition is backing the country's government, which is at war with the rebel Houthis. Canada has a weapons deal with Saudi Arabia. The conflict has been an ongoing controversy for the Canadian government. The UN has called the war in Yemen the world's worst humanitarian crisis. It was a special delivery today for some Toronto frontline workers.
Sending them care packages filled with gifts that really promote self-care and mental wellness. And this is just our way of saying thanks for everything that they've done to keep us safe over the past few years and everything they're continuing to do to keep our communities safe.
They call themselves Gift the Frontline. They were at Michael Garron Hospital in Toronto dropping off 200 gift boxes for frontline workers. That's their biggest donation yet. Sophia is here with the forecast. You told us to pull out the parkas, and I did. You really needed it today.
Yeah, my poor tulips with a couple centimeters of snow this morning. They are hardier than I am, though. It was a rude awakening for many in southern Ontario as winter hit the reset button. We're still talking about wind chill values in the mid-minus teens currently, and as we head into Monday, also still talking about travel advisories for many along the Georgian and the Huron shores that have been dealing with days and days on end of these lake effect snow squalls. It will be really dicey Monday all throughout the day on that drive right between Kitchener to London as these bands really lock in, razor sharp bands, before they finally ease into Monday evening. When it's all said and done, some localities could have seen over this weekend up to 30 centimeters of snow. You'll see a few centimeters, Kitchener, Waterloo, even around the Hamilton area. We're also still tracking this chunk of the polar vortex that's broken off and is setting up shop over top of us. It'll mean wind chill values of minus 20 when you're getting the kids dressed for school Monday morning. It'll feel like the minus mid-teens for Monday afternoon, and our daytime high on Monday of minus 5 is the coldest we have been since February the 25th. Now, how much winter is really left in the tank, you ask? We are also tracking a midweek system, Shannon, that will bring snow to northern Ontario around the Nickel Belt, icing to central Ontario, and then rain and fog to the south, along with finally a warm-up for Thursday, eerily similar to what we saw last week. What's the saying? In like a lamb and out like a lion. March is living up to its name.
Well, hopefully that's the last time we have to hear polar vortex. I don't want to hear that till next year.
Hopefully the last till next year.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Sophia. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with you next weekend. And before we go, we got to leave you with more from the celebration at BMO Field. What a moment. 36 years in the making. We hope you have a great week, everyone.